Today we're going to be analyzing the music theory behind Amaranth, one of Nightwish's most popular songs on Spotify, right now on the spike signal. Compared to my last Nightwish song I talked about, this song is a lot more simple but manages to sound just as beautiful as anything else they've done that's more complex. We observe that tasteful simplicity right off the bat here with how simple this overall line is. This passage and most of the song, if I'm not mistaken, is in the key of F major or D minor. We see here a reliance on the D, the 1 of the D minor scale, in the bass before transitioning to the F, which would be the 1 of F major, before falling to the flat 6 and moving to the flat 7 of D minor. It's a fairly standard 1, flat 3, flat 6, flat 7 progression that just always sounds cool no matter how many times you hear it in metal or anything like this. The triads being outlined follow very closely what's being played in the bass. Here we have several notes of the D minor 7 chord, a general following of the F major chord here, as well as several notes revolving around that C. The whole time there is a violin playing, and on measure 5 he mixes things up a little bit by continuing the triad ascension a couple times. Very, very simple, very, very little variation, all things put together, but it's so short and so nice that you don't really care. We then get into the metal part of the song. Once again, a heavy reliance on the D minor, sometimes breaking out and going to that C, which would be the 5th of the key, to give a little bit of movement. We can also see it ascend here and then descend a little bit, once again just to give a little bit of movement, but overall very simple. We have more D triads right here on measure 15 as it's transitioning to the chromatic heavy kind of part right before the verse. Something I did find pretty interesting though was this E flat right here. If you were to momentarily view this as a transposition to the key of G minor, that would actually work. G minor is right next to D minor, which means you can play stuff from there and have it sound pretty good. If you were to view it that way, given the fact that they're playing an E here, and what is essentially an E here, you'd view them as playing the flat 6 from the key of G minor. You could just as easily view this as some accidentals in the key of D minor, but I thought that was kind of cool anyways. We then get to a passage that I would definitely define as being more accidental based, which is the heavy part. Use a little bit of chromaticism in order to make things sound heavy, as well as general use of accidentals just to make things sound intense, if only for a moment, before returning to the 1, which is D minor. Now the vast majority of the verse here is entirely on the D minor or the 1 of the key of D minor. Looking at the vocals, we can see that Annette is following very, very closely to that as well. We have the 5th of the D, we have the D here, we have the 3rd of the D, so on like that. Eventually resting on the D here. Just in the moment of silence when it comes to the vocals, there is a quick change to the flat 2, just to give a little bit of intensity, a little bit of darkness to utilizing that flat 2 in the moment where there's no singing happening. This does return again to the D minor. Going now to the short pre-chorus, we see movement to the G minor, which is the flat 4, which can give you a little bit of progression in a song without sounding like you're totally going to get pulled to somewhere else like you'd want to in the measure right before the next part of a song. And even within that, they are returning to the D. Once again, we have the use of this E flat right here, which could actually denote being in the key of G minor, but could also just be thought of as an accidental. That accidental or key transposition, however you want to view it, gives way to the beautiful chorus. Very simple, yet can't help but think that each and every one of these chord movements was meticulously selected for maximum effect. We're starting on the D before moving to the flat 3 and then going to the flat 7. This gives a lot of pull in the first 2 measures of the chorus. And that is repeated several times until reaching the end of the second chorus. guitar and bass comes to rest on D, and we have that weird E major thing, as can be seen right here. In this case, in an inversion form, we can tell that because we have what is essentially a power chord here and a perfect fourth underneath that right here. Looking at the vocals in the chorus, we can see that she is following along fairly closely to the rhythm line, but kind of doing her own thing here and there as well. In other passages, she's more closely following the rhythm line, as can be seen with the F right here being the third of the D, as well as the D itself here over top a D chord. And these last two notes right here, right there, as there is a C being played, which is the flat 7 of D minor, we can hear that she sings an A right here before going down to a G. It's a very satisfying vocal movement right there because the G is the 5th of the C power chord right here, as can be seen with this G and this G right here. Not too dissimilar from something Tarja was doing in Dark Chest of Wonders to give a little bit of triumph while sounding complete and within the zone of the song to some of the chorus lines in there. As a quick side note, in that section where an F flat is utilized that would denote a G minor, it actually looks like Annette is ending on a G herself, kind of giving some credence there to the whole G minor idea. After that, we get back to the heavy part. Except this time it's repeated with some orchestral support for extra emphasis. Very cool idea. Then we have the second verse. We're going to move past that because it's pretty much the same as the first one. And then subsequently move past the second chorus as well because once again it's pretty much similar to the first one. We're going to get to the bridge/interlude right now. This very heavy part. Utilizing chromaticism, D and D flat respectively are the chords. We then have some singing kick in. Now, even though we have this chromaticism right here, overall, the song is still very much implying the one throughout this entire part here. And if we look here, we can see that Annette is singing a lot of the chord tones from that G minor right here. Here we have the A, the D, so on like that. A very nice way to have some dissonance in there with the guitar and the bass without the vocals pushing it over the edge into something that would sound a little bit too much. We then return to the angelic intro. That goes on a little bit. Worth noting right here, the very end of the angelic intro is basically just him outlining a D chord all the way to the top right here. We then get to the final chorus, which is in a different key. As can be seen here, we are now in the key of G. A minor second transposition upwards in the circle of fifths. According to this tab too, it looks like the strings are kind of doing their own thing independent of the guitars as well. We have the strings following along with the E minor and then they go down to the D. Basically the strings go back and forth between the 1 and the flat 7 repeatedly, it looks like from this, even though the guitars are going from the 1 to the flat 3 to the flat 7 respectively. Subtle variation and it sounds good. The flat 3 and the flat 7 are also very connected and related chords, so to hold on the strings on the flat 7 while the flat 3 is going on, that would sound pretty coherent. As we get to that weird last measure once again, we hear, and I bet you if I was to do this, that this part could almost be viewed as a momentary transposition to the key of C. One back on the circle of fifths, just like going from the key of D minor to G minor respectively. We see the strings change up a little bit, though they're holding the 1 flat 7 pattern. We see some more notes added within their respective triads. And as we go on, looks like we hit this interesting bit right here where instead of having an accidental or a key change here, we actually stay within key. This section would have been where that accidental was in every other part where this section of the song was repeated, but here it's not, so that's kind of interesting. We then go back to the key of D minor. For the heavy part, we do have some palm muted stuff happening here as well. A little bit of movement, not exclusively staying around the D minor this time. But finishing strong on that D minor with that chromatic stuff happening around it. And that's the song. I hope you liked this analysis of Amaranth by Nightwish. If I missed anything, let me know. Tell me what you thought of it and what you saw that I didn't talk about. If you could also like and comment and subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it. And until next time, I'll see you right here on The Spike Signal.